to Texas. So Texas especially, they're going to be infringed heavily by the demographic shift when America becomes full Democrat. They're going to be the ones that are going to feel the massive infringement and resentfulness. And I definitely think you could start seeing this. Other things that could stop this, though, is when the economic crash happens, if you see a massive realignment and you see the kind of the balance restored between Democrats and Republicans, that could avoid this. So there's no 100% certainty what happens, but these are all possibilities.
Civil War.
I know you don't believe me, but it's not inevitable.
No, that seems not terribly inevitable.
Really? Yeah.
Have you seen like the level of vitriol in this election?
Yeah.
I think there's a fundamental. It seems like there's a fundamental cultural difference between. There is some sort of a divide that maybe is something between like nativists and globalists, right?
I think it's also largely
nationalism versus globalism.
I was going to say I think it's aged too. I think that, like as you pointed out, that people who are older tend to be much more conservative. That
schools, all they teach is they hate America, hate white people, genocide this, genocide that, slavery this, segregation that.
I think they're teaching hating other people.
This is white supremacy right here. White supremacy at its finest. He fucks his cousin.
No, they're teaching you to hate your own culture, your own society.
They're teaching you to be more tolerant.
That's not what I said.
Fuck you, white people. Fuck you. You think you're better than us?
No, they're not, man. I've been to the events, the Milo rallies, and you see the people. They
move back to Europe. Move back to Europe. Move back to Europe.
The what rally?
The Milo event.
End white terrorism. End white terrorism.
You see he's a gay European.
Milo, what's?
Yiannopoulos? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Okay,
He's like an alt-right guy.
You have to understand how crazy the new.
Yeah, alt-right. You don't know them?
You have to understand how crazy the young generation is.
Oh. Yeah.
Okay, listen, the young generation, they don't say, they say hate speech is not free speech.
Are you gonna stand here as a fucking 30-year-old man and fucking ask me questions? I will literally call the police.
And what are the
They're
police?
right.
They actually believe in censorship. You don't have the right to say whatever you want. They want to codify political right. They do. And they even say
some people do.
No, a lot of them, and they say shut it down. They say shut it down. You don't have the right to your opinions. You don't have the right to talk. This is crazy stuff.
You do, but I don't think you have the right to berate somebody to their face.
But a lot of people actually
it's
believe
like
that.
Cyberbullying, all this, again, child psychiatrist. Like, I know that the effects of that and how, like, the
But that
effects
also
that has
causes
on somebody's
assimilation. That's the problem. When you get bullied, you get teased. I got so much shit told me. Everyone always.
Assimilation of what? Like.
Because you realize you can't be
American values.
Yeah, exactly.
Other people.
No, because you're taught that you can't be the outside group. You have to become the inside group. So it's a double-edged sword.
Well, but what if the outside group is right?
That's the problem. That's the problem you always have, unfortunately.
Well, why can't you just make your in-group the people who are right?
If we could do that, there would be no political issues. Everyone would be on the exact same page. If we could do that.
I don't think so. I think the most political issues are because people have had different life experiences and they've had, different, family upbringings. They've experienced, they've encountered different books and different movies or whatever. I think that's largely the origin of political differences.
I also believe 100% of the same thing. Like, no one's advocating for homogenous culture.
I think that's what assimilation is. That's what having a national we don't have any of that anymore.
Speaking in absolutist terms.
People learn English.
That's not.
People go eat. My Indian friends and I have gone to Mexican restaurants and
I'm gonna say we have Taco Bell.
Yeah, there's assimilation.
You gotta look out though. You have to look at what's today versus let's say the 80s, and then you have to extrapolate into the future. And you see that we're getting less and less assimilated. People are hating our society, our culture more and more and more. And the First Amendment is people saying shut it down.
Are you actually a Trump supporter?
Why?
Well, you have the hat, so
maybe. What do you think?
I was just checking.
Yeah, I'm not gonna guess. I'm just curious. Okay. So, again, there's a lot of stuff that Trump says that has implications that certain cultures are inferior, right? And it's
what we're saying about Islam and segregating men and women. That's inferior to our Western values. Yeah.
certain.
I mean, like places where they like do female genital mutilation, clearly
yeah.
worse,
Yes.
right? Like there's clearly better and worse.
But I mean, it's that specific practice is worse. I am not prepared to say everything about any culture is bad.
Oh no. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh,
and
okay.
so when you say assimilate, they can assimilate to like certain aspects of our culture. Again, things like speaking English, that kind of stuff.
That means that we have to meet them halfway. That means that we can't
I love
be
Indian
who we
food.
are.
But if we see something in their culture that they're presenting that we're like, hey, that's a pretty good idea. There's nothing wrong with being like, hey, that's a good idea. Maybe we should change the way that
curry.
we're doing it.
That's food. That's not culture.
It is culture. Food is totally part of culture. I mean, Americans stereotypically eat hot dogs and cheeseburgers, right? That's like part of American culture.
Do you know, the music that is traditional?
I mean, if you're talking about like their standards of marriage, you don't have to do that. Why should there be any difference?
I don't think food changes like your political beliefs, and I could be mistaken.
No, I agree, but I mean, I guess food doesn't change.
But I mean, there's things like music. So, for example, in like what is traditionally considered Puerto Rican and Cuban music is really African music, and it has to do with slave trade. You know, the Spanish bringing over the slaves to Cuba and all the Caribbean countries, and then the slaves marrying with the locals, and their culture becomes assimilated, right? And now we have merengue and salsa and all this great music that really, like, if you listen to Fela Kuti, it sounds like Cuban music. It's a lot of the same rhythms and all.
But in order to get that, you also have to have basically the genocide of their native culture. That doesn't exist anymore, right? So the native culture of all those people
absolutely.
are gone at this point, right?
Of what people? Which people?
The Puerto Ricans, of Mexicans, their native culture is gone. They don't have their native culture anymore. Because we are living in this
things
culture.
Change.
So you're okay with the destruction of all the American culture?
See?
Well, no, but
there's your absolutism
which
again.
parts of America?
No, you don't.
I'm not okay with the destruction of free market capitalism. I'm not okay with the destruction of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of prosperity, freedom of association. I believe in all of those things deeply.
We've already lost the 1st, the 4th, and the 10th, I would argue. Right?
Amendments?
Can I get arrested for cursing you
10th?
out, or vice versa?
You don't have the ability to have freedom of speech because of political correctness. You'll be fired from your job. You cannot talk about the issues
Well,
of
no,
race.
that's not illegal. Congress shall make no law means Congress shall make no law. It means governments don't get to tell you what you can and cannot say.
But if a business-
People can tell you what you can and cannot say all they want.
No.
If I think you're a douche, I get to be not your friend.
No, that's
if
not
I think
true.
you're a douche, I get to fire you from your job.
That's not true because
Why can't I fire? No, of course I
no,
can't.
it's not because if you even make a statement on race or religion, you'll just be fired from your job. It doesn't even matter if it's discriminatory or not because companies are so afraid of being sued because of the Civil Rights Act. Well, no, it's the government that caused the problem. And now the result is you can't talk about illegal immigration, you can't talk about Islam. So we did lose the First Amendment.
Yeah. Every single
Only because
week,
Trump brought it up.
Bill Maher has been talking about Islam for since before 2001.
Yeah.
Like he had a show on ABC where he was railing on about Islam in the 90s.
Okay, listen, Bill Maher's a good example of what I mean. And he's a good example of the de-assimilation he's a good example of it. So old liberals, they'd be okay with talking about Islam. New liberals, the progressives, they don't. And he's a good example of he's an in-between step. He's an older liberal. He hasn't fully incorporated all the new ideas, all the new doctrines. And it's because he was born in an earlier era. Whereas the new liberals, the progressives, all religion is off limits. You cannot talk about Islam at all, and TYT is the good example of this. And so you see the new liberals, the new progressives, no religion, old liberal, Bill Maher, okay, we'll talk about Islam. And that's what I mean, that's the de-assimilation, that's the censorship of speech. And it's incremental, it's generation over generation, it's little by little. It's not all at once. And that's why we don't notice it, because it's like the boiling frog thing, where the temperature just gets hotter and hotter, so you don't just jump out immediately. It's the same thing. You're seeing the gradual change. It's gradual and it's generational. And when you see the newer generation, you can see it more, and you have to compare and contrast.
Well, time will tell if that's a good change or a bad change.
It's not, because you're going to have a massive amount of immigration from Mexico. You're going to have... Yeah, but... No,
There's no net immigration.
No, it's record high.
We've been losing people.
No, it's record high this year. It's record high because
Since when? Last year it was net negative.
yeah, now it's record high. So,
In a year it went to be record high?
yes, it's because of Trump.
What?
Because they're scared Trump's actually going to build a wall. So now there's millions of people pouring in this year.
Oh, well then welcome. All of you.
But we're spending
To America.
Why-
Be citizens.
why-
I don't give a shit.
Why wouldn't you? You want to pay more for their welfare? You know how much we spend?
They're going to get
already?
jobs.
They don't pay enough to actually justify all the welfare we spend.
Yeah, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
I saw the numbers. They pay $3.5 billion in taxes.
Who cares about taxes? The important thing is the effect they have on our economy.
It's negative.
They give us more money than they take out.
It's not. It's not even close. We spend $20 billion a year on welfare for illegals. $20 billion.
$20 billion is $1,000 per illegal. Do you really think that illegals don't generate $1,000 per person every year in economic productivity? That's insane.
No, they don't, because the corporations take most of the profit. They don't pass it on to the consumer.
This might all be on the internet shortly, so.
Where's this going to be on, by the way? What are you going to do with this?
So I got a YouTube channel.
All right.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a good
What's the
debate,
thing?
though.
All right.
I
Maybe
like
get
this.
some
I would
ratings.
like to get the
It's
link or
Shut
whatever.
45. That's my YouTube channel.
That's the cost of 2 Trump laws just in California each year. That's how much we spend on welfare for the illegals. Right now, we're spending.
Sure, but I mean, do you really? So let's say that we spend $20 billion on welfare. Okay, that's about. Depending on who you believe, if you believe Trump, right, is about somewhere in the. That's like $1,500 per illegal immigrant.
That's the amount of money to give everyone in California free college. That's what we're
Yeah, that's
we're
nice.
talking about.
The important thing, though, is that these 12 million people, if we're spending only $1,500 a year in welfare on
Only
them,
in California, not in the other states. Other states have different numbers. So it's only $20 billion in California only, not in the other states. By the way, I don't know what the full number is.
okay, I thought it was the entire thing.
No, it's only in California. I don't know what the full number is. But again, $20 billion.
I need to see that because I don't think we actually have that much in all the welfare programs.
Yeah, no, because half of it is just for their K through 12 schooling. Half of it is just for K through 12.
Oh,
So
okay.
half of it is just for K through 12.
Also, but I
schooling.
wouldn't. I mean, they're going to live here though, and they're going to get jobs later.
They don't contribute
Those
enough.
kids are going to grow up
They're
and
not going to make enough money making construction, flipping burgers at McDonald's to pay for all your welfare. It's the same problem they have in Europe with all the Muslim immigrants. They don't contribute enough, and so it's the taxpayers, it's the middle class that pays for the corporate welfare.
well, the welfare system in Europe is a lot more expensive than ours. It's much more expensive per person.
Yeah, but it's the same
It's
problem.
about 50% of GDP instead of only like 36% of GDP is government.
It's the same problem.
Sure, but I mean the marginal effect means that that while it may be unaffordable there, it's not necessarily unaffordable here.
Again, the marginal effect is people in California could have free college if it wasn't for the illegals. That's the marginal effect. Free college for everyone in California.
Yeah, so
That's how much.
yeah, but I can name all sorts of stuff where if I eliminate this one program, I can get this really cool
But
thing.
this is not one program. These are people that we don't even have the right to say that they should be in our country or not. That we don't even have the right to say, hey, please don't come here. You're taking too much of our welfare. This is welfare supposed to be for the American
I mean,
citizens.
okay, so what if we just said? I mean, would you be fine if we just said no welfare if you're not if you're an illegal immigrant?
Yeah, we did say that. We said that in California. We said that with Prop 187, and the government said, no, we're not going to enforce that because it's against our political beliefs. We had that in California. It was called Prop 187, I believe, right? We had the vote in California on that. People said, exactly, we do not want to have welfare for illegals. We don't want California to be an illegal magnet. And they said, we don't care, well, California, we're not going to enforce this.
Okay, well that sucks. But I mean, I'm not going to defend
That's
that.
against democracy. So you're
I
against
don't care.
democracy.
Well, no. I said I didn't. I'm not for that. I think that you should not provide welfare to. I mean, I don't. I'm a libertarian. I don't really believe in welfare at all.
Yeah,
So, I mean, if you're going to restrict it from someone, I guess we can go ahead and do illegal
fundamental
immigrants.
problem-
But they come in and like, as long as you make it so
Prop
that.
187. Prop 187.
Oh, 94. Okay.
Yeah. Prop 187.
Prop 187. Well, okay. I don't actually remember much about that. What was I going to say?
The problem
I mean-
with libertarianism, at the end of the day, is that you don't want to make any decisions. You want everything to be free market, absolute deregulation, and you're going to have anarchy with libertarianism. That's the end result.
Anarchy. I mean, you enforce fraud. You punish people for fraud, property rights violations, theft, rape, assaults, murders. Right? I mean, That's not nothing. You enforce people's individual rights, and that's it.
How are you going to enforce these rights when you have free trade and everyone can just ship all their jobs overseas?
You don't have a right to a job. You have a right not to be killed or not to have your shit stolen.
You're just going to cause like a fucking society to collapse, unfortunately. That's the problem with these ideas.
Why?
Because if people don't have a job, they're going to riot. The clubs aren't going to be happy not working.
But that's not what.
for generations.
But that's not what the evidence
Riots do
says. The the evidence shows that all of the evidence shows that when you have free trade, it makes both countries better off in the long run.
No.
Yes.
Not at all.
Yes, it does.
No, it doesn't.
Absolutely does. It hurts some people, but it benefits everyone
I'm a
overall
Bernie
more.
No, that's not what happens. That's not what happens at all. When you have free trade, look, okay, want to see free
It
trade?
hurts some people, but I don't care about those people.
Okay,
I
this
care about
iPhone,
all of them.
this iPhone sells for $650.
Yeah.
It costs Apple $200 something to make it. It costs $200 for Apple to make this iPhone. It sells for $650. What happens in free trade is the corporations take most of the profit. They do not pass it on to the consumer.
And then it goes into somewhere. Money doesn't just...
Yeah, it goes into the stock market so rich can get richer.
and then it comes back around. When it goes into the stock market, it gets invested in some company somewhere that then does something economically productive.
That's not what happens at all. Trickle-down economics, that's all bullshit. It gets invested in the stock market, then gets reinvested. Stock prices go up. It does absolutely nothing in the real economy. That's the entire problem that we have right now with quantitative easing, is exactly what you're talking about. That's why
I'm not for quantitative easing either. It's a manipulation of the market.
But it's the exact same mentality that you inflate the stock market and that translates down to people. It's the same exact
No, it's
idea.
not. Because the difference is quantitative easing is I'm printing money and then just injecting it into the economy as if it's going to be magic.
It's the same thing with free trade, is you're redistributing the money, taking it to the corporations. And
No, not redistributing money. I'm saying you want something. Someone in another country wants to make it and sell it to you. You go, I will buy your shit. Here's dollars. They give me the thing, and we're both better off.
No,
that's all free trade is.
That's not how it works.
That's all free trade is.
Because corporations are a middleman, and they take that profit and they don't
Corporations
pass it on.
are run by people. Money in corporations goes into things, and it doesn't just disappear. People don't take, no corporation has taken all their money and buried it underground.
No,
and just said it's my
That's
money.
what the stock market basically is. That's what the bond market
No,
basically
it goes
is.
through to other things. When you invest in the stock market,
No, it doesn't.
dude,
That's not what happens.
an investment bank, you give the investment bank money, they buy shit, then other people get that money. Where's the money go? It goes to someone else. Money doesn't ever just sit somewhere magically in the economy. It always is moving around.
That's what the stock market is, though. You have short term. You have no interest. You have very little. You have low interest rates. All they do is just invest the money into more and more in the stock market. They don't invest it into long term assets because it's easier to invest it in stocks. And so what you're saying doesn't happen. They don't actually.
Some people do.
Most people do. 80%. 80% of all the money goes to real estate and stocks. It goes into assets. It doesn't go into actual equipment to increase your economy. So what you're saying is all
When you
theory.
invest in assets, though, that money goes places.
When your house price goes up, it doesn't help the economy. It helps maybe the real estate agent. It's maybe the only guy it helps. It doesn't actually stimulate new job creation. So, when you
No, I mean, yeah, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't stimulate more job creation. What stimulates job creation is people wanting stuff. And then people figuring out ways to give people stuff.
But you don't
at
make the
less
stuff
cost.
You don't make the stuff in America, so you don't have any more jobs for the people. And so you look at the facts. Twice as many people live in poverty today than they did in 2000. We're having massive. Yeah, that's a fact. In America, twice as many people today live in poverty than 15 years ago. What you're saying doesn't work. You're seeing an increase in the wealth inequality.
I really don't think that's true,
Yeah,
because
it
as
is.
far as I know, the poverty rate in America has been essentially flat for
What's
decades.
the actual number, though, is twice. Probably it's largely because of all the illegal immigrants, too. I'm sure that contributes to it as well.
But numbers, I mean, okay, so one,
Poor white people have babies at the same rate as poor other non-white people.
Non-whites have less babies than non-whites, that's true.
yeah, that's actually
Say that again?
so culturally, white people have fewer babies than people from other people.
Yes.
I think so. I'm not entirely certain.
Maybe in general, but I'm pretty sure that's a socioeconomic thing. That if you look at the rates, I'm pretty sure it's more correlated to.
Though I would
SES
actually say that even if it isn't, right? I mean, even if it isn't a purely poverty thing, more than likely, my assumption is it's a holdover. When, in many areas around the world, they're still in the high death rate, high birth rate, zone, right, for demographics, right? So when they immigrate to the United States, they haven't just suddenly changed. So they'll probably have a lot of kids, but their kids probably won't have a lot of kids. They assimilate in the United States, they're richer, and so they have fewer kids.
I would give it another generation or two because anecdotally,
Maybe a couple of generations?
the current generation, I've had plenty of 13, 14, 15-year-olds who get pregnant, and part of it is an education thing because they, as sadly as this is, they literally don't know how their bodies work, which comes back to sex ed in school because we teach abstinence only, unfortunately, in a lot of places. Not anymore though. Obama just passed the I think he just passed a bill recently that to defund. I think not to like make it illegal, but to
Does
defund.
not have federal funding for abstinence only.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Neat.
There's another argument though is that people that have assimilated into America, they don't want to have as many kids because they don't believe they can give them all a good quality of life. They can't give them all one car, or they can't afford for all their college. And that taxes are too high, and it's actually taxes being very high on the middle class. That's actually why it shrinks these people's birth rates.
But I mean, the same process happens everywhere around the world.
No, only
As
in the
people
West.
get richer,
Only in westernized
they
countries.
have fewer kids.
Yeah, in westernized countries. Because
No,
they,
and also same thing in India and also China, Japan, South Korea,
They also get married later and
Africa.
yeah, because they're forced to go to school, they have to go
South
to college
America.
thing, and they have to
That's
get a
what
job.
happens when people get rich.
And getting more women into the workforce is a big part of it too, because they focus more on their career rather than like the expectation is no longer, oh, you were 18, 20 years old, let's start popping out kids.
And this is another con. So with feminism, it teaches women they need to go into the workforce. And so the con that you get from that is you have lower birth rates because women can't, they have to focus on their careers over their relationships. So that's another one of the con types that you get from these different decisions.
That's true.
So every decision you make, you have to make.
You're saying that since women went into the workforce, they're not simply baby making machines, so there's fewer babies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah.
It's a choice of feminism. So
I think
by
so.
adding feminism to society, we've caused the problem of women not having kids.
Why is that a problem?
Why is that a problem? Yeah.
Because you're gonna be fucking miserable. You're gonna turn into Ayn Rand if you don't have a baby, and you're like literally lonely for the rest of your life.
Wait, you're gonna literally say that like women cannot be happy without having kids?
I don't think people in general are going to be happy if they're 40 years old. And from my personal experience, if you're like 40 plus, you don't have a kid, you're not going to have as much happiness as people that do have kids.
You should Google that and look at the actual stats because I'm pretty sure that's not accurate at all. I think it's the opposite actually.
I don't know why you
Like,
want to be lonely.
so satisfaction is higher, I think, for parents, but happiness is not higher. It's lower.
That's probably true.
That's actually how it breaks down. Is that they feel more satisfied with life in general, but they're not actually happy.
It's back to the triangle.
Yeah.
They've met their productivity or whatever.
Yeah.
They have their belongingness, their productivity, so they're happy.
So I actually saw a YouTube.